Welcome back to PSC Step 5. Today we start a new series of episodes about the Microsoft 365 Developer Proxy, which is an open source developer tool created by Microsoft in order to help developers to simulate throttling and, generally speaking, HTTP issues whenever consuming an external API, which can be Microsoft Graph, the SharePoint APIs, or any other API of your own. It is really useful whenever you want to simulate an error or to simulate an API-specific behavior or eventually play with mock responses for your APIs. It works like a proxy on your developer machine, and it has been created by 3 friends of mine in the Microsoft community area, and specifically by Waldek, Kevin, and Gary. So, thanks to them, and let's move to the demo environment to see how to set it up and play with it. So, this is the GitHub repository for the Microsoft 365 Developer Proxy, and from here you can find a nice tutorial about how to use it, as well as you can easily download it. So let's go to the github.com/microsoft/m365-developer-proxy and click on download now to get the proxy in order to set up your developer environment. Right now we are at version 0.10, so still a community preview. You can download it for your target system, and as you can see it works on Windows, Linux and macOS. Here I am on a Windows machine, so I'm going to download this zip file, and once it will be ready I can simply open the folder, unzip the file in a target folder. So for example, I can open my file system in a different location. I can go to the C drive of my machine, and I can go to the program files folder, and I can create a new folder which I can call, for example, M365 Proxy, just for the sake of it. Once I've done that, I can unzip the content of the downloaded file into the folder that I just created, and of course I will consent to write files into that folder. Once I've done that, I will need to specify that this path is in the path environment variable for my user. So I will need to go here in the system properties and into the environment variables, and I will select path and edit its content, and I can create a new item which will target the proxy folder that I just created. So once I've done that, I can start a new console session, for example using PowerShell or any other tool, and I can simply start the M365 Proxy tool. It will take a little bit, and then I will see a prompt to enable an SSL certificate on my machine in order to manage the interception of traffic over HTTPS when consuming external APIs like the SharePoint APIs or the Microsoft Graph API. So click on yes, and then the very first time you will do that, you will also have to grant the allow access to the firewall settings for the application. Once you have done that, the tool will be up and running. Remember that whenever you want to close the tool, you need to do Ctrl+C to block it. Otherwise, you can be in troubles because the proxy might be still running in the back end. You might have an unexpected behavior in all of your applications. So now let's say that we want to play with it, and actually we have already seen that we are doing something under the cover with the Microsoft Graph just because I have plenty of tools running on my machine. So let me run the tool now on my machine. So first of all, let me start with a clear console window, and then let me run the tool again. So M365 Proxy will be the tool. I can run it without any mocks for the output. I can allow to get errors of type 429, which are those returned by an API when there is throttling in place. And then I can say that I want to have a failure rate for my request, which can be of 100%. Meaning that I want all of the requests that I will make for my target API to fail and to give me back a 429. Let's run it. And just for the sake of testing it, let me go to a tool like Postman and let me make a request for Microsoft Graph. So here, for example, I'm invoking Microsoft Graph version 1 $metadata. If I will make a request right now, what I will get back will be a too many request error, and I can see that I've got a 429 HTTP status from the response. So now if I go back to the console window, I can also see, as it was before, that I've got also additional information like this request was proxied by the tool. I can see a warning which can help me to investigate the exception, and then I can see that I've got a 429 exception. Of course, you can play with different HTTP status responses, and you can play with a different failure rate, but you can really adjust what you want to have in order to do proper testing and analysis of the behavior of your application when consuming a target API. If you want to configure a different target for your API, for example, you can go to the folder where you installed the M365 proxy, and you can edit the M365 proxy RC JSON file. In fact, if you will open it, for example, with Visual Studio Code, you can see that this is a configuration file where you can find a bunch of plugins configured, and being an open source project, you can eventually create your own plugins. And then there is a URLs to watch property through which you can configure the URLs that will be managed by the Microsoft 365 proxy when making your requests and your tests. And here you can play with some additional settings. So let's say that you want to test a custom API, you can add it to the list of URLs to watch, and then you can play with it and still play with the proxy in place to simulate any kind of HTTP status you want to test. So that said, in the upcoming episode of this series of episodes about Microsoft 365 proxy tool, we will see how we should behave in our code, in our real-life applications, whenever we have to face these kind of issues simulated with the tool, but also which can be real when playing with the actual APIs in our target environment. Like always, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.